Welcome to Steve McDonald's Arts and Crafts, and today what I'm going to do is I've got this little spider mould. Now it's made for fondant or chocolate, but actually I want to see if I can make a decent enough spider out of this to put into a casting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and turn this into Black Widow-esque type of spider mould. So to be able to do that, I'm going to pop in a little bit of red mica powder into the mold like so. See if that red will come out. So there we are. I'll give you a close-up of what that looks like. Just going to tap out the excess because I don't need that. I will clean this up a little bit with a baby wipe so it doesn't get contaminated anywhere else, and get it off the side. I don't know how well this is going to show up in the actual resin once the black goes on, but hopefully it'll be fine. And then what I can do is I can use this as part of almost like a little diorama with just the spider and some backing. So without too much further ado, let's pour the resin on it. I've used a non-mica powdered resin pigment for the actual main body of it. Now, I realise that this, as it is, when it's cured, it's just going to look like a flat spider. Looks like a spider someone's drew it on. So what I'm going to do is, a little bit later on in the video, I will show you how I'm going to turn this really into, from a two-dimensional spider into a three-dimensional spider, so it looks like it's walking. And thank God it's only resin. So I'm going to pop a little bit into the body because I don't really want to disturb the body too much. And hopefully that will do the trick. If not, then not a problem. And I will do something else with this as well, so it isn't so flat bodied, which again you'll see later on in this video. So make sure you watch to the end so you can see all how this is prepared. Now, I want to get the legs into this filled as well, and they're quite thin legs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my blunt-nosed needle from one of my syringes just to ensure that the resin is all the way in those legs. As I do, as you've probably seen me do lots of times, and there's no air trapped in them. Right, so now I'll just take a stick and I will just run that across there like so. Ensure that I've got no flashing as much as I can help it. I'll take that blob off there because I don't want that there. And now I can identify anywhere that I just need to pop a little bit more resin, which I do here. And we will be able to thicken these legs up a little bit more with the technique that I'm going to use soon. So this is cured now, and it's had about 18 hours, so it should just pop out the mould quite easily. There we go. And as you can see, it will need a bit of trimming up, just a little bit. So I'll do that, and then I'll come back, and the red has come out a little bit, but not as much as I want. So I will be putting some more red on that. But I don't want it to look like a squidged bug. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to dome the back of this and the legs with a bit of UV resin. And the reason I'm using UV resin is because it is quite thick and it does dome quite well. I am going to put a little bit of black mica powder in the UV resin. So I'm just going to pop a bit on the middle there. Okay, and take my trusty blunt nose needle and move it to the edges. Okay, I'm just going to build that up once more, doing it exactly the same way, and then I will show you how I'm going to turn it into looking like it's crawling. Okay, so now that's done, as you can see, I've made it a lot thicker bodied at the bottom, and all I need to do now is turn his legs round. So to make it more 3D, while it's still in this not completely cured state, I can actually bend these legs, as you can see, like this, to give it more of a creeping look. And if I'm unsure of how that's going to stop, and you know, is it going to ping back and go flat again, which it is likely to want to do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a bit of tape around the leg like that, and then tape it down to keep it into position. So I think that one needs to be there like that. That one needs to be there like that. And then what I'll do is I'll pop something under the body to keep the body up, because if not, the legs will pull the body down, and then the legs won't stay down. So I'll continue with this, sticking these down, and then we'll come back when it's fully cured. Okay, so what we can see now is I've taken it off the piece of board that I'd got his legs strapped down to, and what you can see now is it is looking a little bit more three-dimensional. And I've decided that it isn't Black Widow enough to paint on the red here, because the front legs just aren't long enough, but it does still look like a spider, and I quite like how that little bit of red has come out. So now we've got it more 3D looking. I've got this bit of granite. I found it in the garden, so I thought I'd use it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop this on there like so, so it looks like it's walking over this piece of granite. So the way I'm going to stick this down is I'm going to stick it down using some UV resin, as I normally do, because I know that UV resin doesn't react at all with the epoxy resin that I'll be using. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see where I want to put it. Okay, so it's probably going to be about there. And then I'm going to put a bit of this UV resin on its belly. I'm going to hold that to there like that, and I'm just going to shine my UV light on that, and that then should cure that resin, and it will then sit on that rock nicely with its legs hanging over. So there we go, that's nicely fixed on there. That isn't going to go anywhere. So I've decided to cast it in this square silicone mold, and I'll put the link to this as well as everything else in the description. It's glued onto there nicely. I'm just going to pop that rock in there because it's not going to float up because it's quite heavy. Get it into position that I want it. And then I'm just going to pour my resin over. It's quite a small mold, quite a small bit. So I'm just going to do it in one pour. So I'm just going to pour my resin in. I'm going to pour it down quite slowly down the side. So there we go, that's now covered. I'm going to watch that for a few minutes, pop any bubbles that come up using my heat gun, and then we'll leave that to cure and we'll see how that turns out. This is how it came out, and I have to say, I'm not overly unhappy with it. Although what happened was I didn't really mix the resin very well, and as a result, it's created a lot of micro bubbles in it. So what I've done is, I've made another one, and it didn't take too long to make another one. I've made this a little bit smaller, but it looks very much the same. And also, I've made a base for it. Now, it was easy to make the base. I just mixed up a bit of black resin pigment into some resin, poured it into the bottom of this mould until it cured. And there we go, it's cured nice and hard. So I'm going to put the base onto this like so, and I think that finishes it off really nicely. And then I'm going to dome the top. So I'll quickly show you how I'm going to do that. Because when this cures, it leaves that little ridge in there. It does it also with this bottom bit. So that makes it easy to stick this, just using some resin, to the actual cube itself. So I just put ample enough in there like so. And then I line it up, allow that to squidge around in there. It kind of creates a little vacuum. And then it will stay on there. And then once that resin cures, it will just be on there permanently. There we go. And to dome it, I literally just do the same thing. I just pour some resin on. I've mixed this up trying to avoid as many bubbles as possible because I just don't, I know people love bubbles. I just really don't like them. I am, at the moment, still thinking about getting a pressure pot, but I keep resisting. But I think I will end up getting one. So there we go. So we just move that around like so. I will go over this with my torch. I need a bit more in there, just in case any bubbles do come up. I use my blunt nose needle just to make sure it's on all those edges. And there we go. What I'll do is I'll leave this to cure now for 24 hours. And then once it's cured, I will show you what it finishes off looking like. Now, I'm going to make another little base. And all I'm going to be using is this black resin pigment. There's the mould. Just pour that in. Let that cure. And when it's cured, it'll just be a nice little thin base for the other one. Really easy to do, and it just does finish off, I think, any paperweight that you're making that's square. And it also fits, obviously, because it's perfect shape, because it came out of that mold in the first place. So we'll come back to this when it's cured. So these are finished now, both of them. And you can really see the difference of when you take time and mix your resin properly. And again, obviously there's no pressure pot used in those. I don't mind the other one. It just looks like it's a spider under some really bubbly water, or perhaps in some soda. But I do think the spiders come out looking quite realistic. And I particularly do like the fact that they've got the little black bases on them as well. So let's go from the top as well. And there we go. Really simple, easy to make, no bugs harmed in the making of these videos or spiders, and it's a great way to use your resin. Don't forget, if you're looking for tips and tricks and other videos, then join my Facebook group, How to Resin with Steve McDonald. The link is below in the description. And also, please leave me a comment and like this video. It really helps the video to get out there, and I love it. It makes me feel good. Thanks, bye.